Hello everybody, how are you doing? Welcome to the stream. And just as I say that, I realize I need to mute the alerts for reasons. Because we're producing a podcast here and I can't have that interfering. We'll just see, let's go over here and let's mute that as well. Rightio, hope you're doing well. On a Tuesday today, I'm gonna release another. I'm gonna record and release a show today, and then I'm gonna do the same tomorrow. And then I'm off for a little bit. Wait a second here. My hair is all like, it's all messed up. This is not good. Look at that. It's horrible. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to do 2 podcasts in a row, and then I'm off. I'm off Twitch for a little bit, and off podcasting. I'm taking a holiday. I'm prepared. I'm already prepared. Right. Okay. Here we go. Let's do the test recording here. Hello. Oh, we're not recording here, obviously. Oh God, no. What are we doing? This can't stand. Can't have this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Rewind. Check this. Can't have this. I should be breathing into the microphone so much. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Can't stop too long, but saw my sub ran out. Thanks, Indy. Thanks. So you're actually on the list, I think. I think you're on the list. Hope you're having a good day. And catch you around. Are you on the list? No, you're not. No, you're not on the list. You're not on the list. You're not on the list. Do you want me to enable the alerts so you can resubscribe? Here you go. Oh, you're editing podcasts. That's a worthwhile endeavor. If you want to resub, I've turned the alerts back on just for you. While I drink from my massive gin and tonic. Alright, so that's working. Only the kings edit podcasts. Okay. Oh, don't sneeze. Bloody fucking allergies. I hate this. Right. Do you want to push the button? Otherwise, I'm going to turn the alerts back off because then I'll start this. I'll start recording this shit. But I appreciate you dropping by. Oh, here we go. Thank you. Why isn't that alert not sounding? See, I turned it on. But apparently I miss. Anyway, turn it back off. Thank you anyway, Indie Gaming X. Thanks for subscribing. I appreciate it a lot. Let's put you on the list, shall we? Let's put you on the list. Where are we? You're probably here somewhere. I don't know. Let's just put you here. Indie Gaming. I don't want to sneeze. Jesus. Why is it so bad all of a sudden? GameX, is that correct? That is correct. Here we go. Okay. Let's do this. Right. Just gonna. Can I actually? Do I have a? I'm gonna mute myself here. Sorry, I'm gonna blow my nose here for a second. bloody fucking grass. Anyway, let's do this. Yeah, it's not that bad this year. I don't know what it is. Might be living in Düsseldorf. Maybe in the north it was worse. It might be just the weather this year because it was very, very rainy and cold for a long time. And then very hot. Or maybe it's just because so my other idea is that I got a lot fitter over the last 2 years. Maybe that's, some people say that helps them actually. I have no idea. But it's actually getting better. But it's still there, obviously, and sometimes it just breaks through. Anyway, let's do this. Let's start recording this accident of a podcast. And right, so you're on the list. Let's try this to do this with take one, shall we? Movember came early. Hey, super user. Now I'm just gonna go on a trip, and the wife hates this look, but I'm not around her for a while, so I'm just I just went to the slick daddy. I just copied Doc Disrespect there for a bit. Let's do this. Well, this shirt, I always wear shirts like this, but yeah, it is. I'm going for Magnum PI here a little bit. Anyway, okay, so just so you know, just disclaimer, I'm recording a podcast, so I won't interacting so much. I appreciate you being there, and of course I'm looking at the chat for feedback. Anyway, I'm gonna try to start this now. I might as well just stop this shit. Look at this. This is all. You will have to cut that out later. Anyway, here we go. Let's do this podcast. Let's get this going. You're listening to The Private Citizen, defending your right to have something to hide. This is episode 77 for Tuesday, the 6th of July, 2021. Welcome to the Polizeistaat! Hey everybody, welcome to The Private Citizen. Thanks for listening. My name is Fab. I'm your host, coming to you live from Düsseldorf, the capital of the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. As you can tell, we have a bit of a German topic today again. Well, really, we're going to talk about the crypto wars. It's going to be all crypto wars. I'm going to talk about the Staatstrojaner, lawful encryption law that came into effect, how it happened. There's a little bit of a limitation on it, what that means. And then we have some EncroChat news. So also a topic. So both of these are I'm kind of catching up to topics we had previously on the show. I'm doing this on a Tuesday, which isn't the normal release date. I'm going to have a show out tomorrow on Wednesday as well, hopefully, if everything goes according to plan. But I'm trying. Basically, as I said previously, the show will go on a bit of a hiatus. From tomorrow, from Wednesday. Is it the 8th? Yeah. No, well, Thursday basically. I'm going to release the show tomorrow, and then I'm going to have a little bit of a hiatus here, and then I should be back by Wednesday the 28th. So I'm giving you an extra episode here. This is stuff I need to wrap up. I've got so many shows to do, but this is kind of I moved it forward in the queue because I need to talk about it. At least the lawful interception stuff, the Staatstrojaner stuff quickly here, because I'm already behind with that. And I wanted to get that out of the way before our hiatus. Then we have another show tomorrow, and then we'll see when I'm back in the saddle. The cards are the deck gets shuffled again, but I still have a lot of stuff. If I had more time, I could do an episode a day currently. But I don't want to complain. This is not me complaining. There could be worse things than running a podcast where you don't have, you could be a show where I don't have enough topics. This show is blessed with an overabundance of topics. Let's put it that way. before we get into the crypto war topics, let's quickly talk about Twitch. I have a little update about Twitch. As you know, I'm live streaming this on Twitch. I do that pretty much every time. I live stream the show, and then I upload that to YouTube. Of course, it's first and foremost a podcast, but some people like watching people do these things live, and I always had requests for this on this show and a previous show, so I'm just doing it. Anyway, we were talking about Twitch in the previous episode 76. I was talking about, even in episodes before that, we were talking a little bit about censorship and stuff like that, especially in Germany. And I mentioned the NetzDG law, das Netzwerkdurchsetzungsgesetz, which is basically a German law against hate speech on the internet, and it aims to make platform providers responsible for the content on their platforms. And Twitch sent me an email about this, which had weird timing, and I had some questions about that. If you're interested in what actually Twitch wrote me and what I replied and asked their press people, please go listen to episode 76. I don't really want to recap that here. Just a quick update to say that they emailed me back. I got an email from a German person at Twitch press offices. Unlike YouTube, they actually replied. That is good. That's the good news. The bad news is they said, hello, please read this to answer your questions. And they linked me to a webpage. I put, as always, go to privatecitizen.press if you're interested in the show notes. This is privatecitizen.press/episode/77. There's links to everything I talk about, of all of the content I use to produce the shows on there. So you can, think for yourself, have a look at the facts, as it were, for yourself. And I have a link to the page that Twitch linked me to. It's they linked me to the German version, but this is an English translation. And not a single of the questions I actually asked them is on there. But the stuff I asked them was like, why are you enforcing this now? NetzDG is like a law from 2017, I think. The last changes came in effect in January. How does this relate to your terms of service? Why do you even mention your terms of service? Just to quickly, I said I don't want to recap, but to quickly recap, NetzDG is a criminal law in Germany. It deals with things that the state needs to investigate, that are criminal matters that you get put into criminal court for. Twitch's terms of service is a civil law thing, right? That's like just their terms of service. And if they enforce them towards me, they can do whatever they want. I mean, I can sue them under civil law, of course. Anybody can sue anybody under civil law, but it's very different from actually being accused of a crime, right? If you violate NetzDG, that's a crime. That's not a matter of fines. Generally, it's a matter of actual jail time. So I don't understand how this plays together. I mean, I mentioned this before. Companies, I think generally, I've read a scientific paper about this, about so-called overblocking, are generally trying right now to block things that they need to block under NetzDG in Germany, under their TOS, terms of service. Because NetzDG being a criminal law, you have recourse under criminal law. And they don't want that, right? They want you to, if you sue them under civil law, where they will win by just having more money and more lawyers, which doesn't really work in criminal proceedings. In a country like Germany, that's a state prosecutor that's prosecuting you there. It's not like lawyer versus lawyer, right? Anyway, so that was their answer. I've told them that their answer does not answer any of my questions, and asked them for further comment. We will see. I will keep you updated. Since I have an actual person there, I presume they will get back to me, and I will let you know. So let's get right into the first crypto war topic here. Let's talk about the Germany's new law, or the renewed law on the protection of the Constitution. Sounds amazing. I'm a big fan of the Grundgesetz, the GG, good game, the German Constitution. I think it's very important, and a law to protect that sounds good. But actually, what this is, and I've talked about this before in episode 7, and I refer you back to that if you're interested in the details. It's basically what this law allows more of is basically the German state putting spyware on people's phones. And this is very far-reaching. This is, they were already doing this with the Internal Intelligence Service, but this is now also the police being allowed to do this. This is also now in cases where, and this only has become clear since I did this last episode, well, at least to me. I've read more analysis about this law, and it seems to be, in many cases, just purely based on suspicion. Now, that's generally not how these kinds of things in Germany work, right? We've had wiretaps, legal wiretaps for a long time. We had searches in, your personal premises for a long time. But generally, it works like this in Germany. The police does an investigation. They figure out a person. They have, not necessarily like proof that you could win a lawsuit with, because then they, a criminal case with, because then they wouldn't need to do this stuff. But they have strong evidence that somebody's involved in something nefarious, illegal activity. Then they go to they work with a state prosecutor. They go to a judge, and they get a warrant, either for a wiretap or for access to your living room or whatever, your house. And that's usually how it works. But that presumes that you have not only the suspicion, but some proof, not proof, but some evidence or circumstantial evidence. It might be a connection, right? It might be that they investigating somebody they can prove was involved in a crime, and now they're targeting their associates, right? And they don't have anything specific on them yet. That's why they want the wiretap, or they want the search warrant. But if they in that case prove to a judge, and obviously I'm talking about all this, but I'm not a lawyer. Obviously, if you're watching this live on Twitch, you can see me right now, and I look more like a police officer from Hawaii right now than I don't think you'd think I'm a lawyer. But anyway, I'm not a lawyer. This is obviously not legal advice. This is a podcast on the internet, in case you were confused about this. But this is how I see it. And then they could go and say, well, we know we have proof that this guy's a criminal. He's associating with these persons very closely. We think they're involved, and then then can get a warrant or whatever. That's how it usually works. But that's not what they want to do here now. And this is, for all intents and purposes, pretty much also wiretaps and warrants. I'm gonna read out a good bit of a blog, or several bits from a blog post from a guy called Matthias Monroy, who has a blog at site36.net, digit.site36.net. All the links are at privatecitizen.press in the show notes, of course, where he talks about this. But this is very interesting and ties into the EncroChat thing later, because that's an instance where not the German police, but like the French police and the Dutch police, they used these same techniques to gather information, and a German court has now said that these are inadmissible in court because they violate privacy, and they violate the rights of the people that were surveilled. So in Germany, there's always a big focus on, it's not kind of like post-Patriot Act America, right? Where you can go, well, just that we have a vague suspicion. Okay, at least a pen register, right? At least we get a pen register immediately. Like in Germany, you generally have to actually prove reasonable suspicion with these kinds of things. And the EncroChat ruling that I'm going to talk about later is actually impacts on this as well. So these two topics tie together. Super user asks in Twitch chat, don't judges rubber stamp almost all these requests, or is it really a procedure to suggest to the police to do the bare minimum? I don't think they rubber stamp these at all. There's no rubber stamping going on. This is not how it works in Germany. A judge will look at these. I mean, you can make a case that they're generally relatively friendly towards the police, but also it depends very much on the judge. Judges in Germany are very, very independent. They don't take any shit from the police in general. I mean, they will generally, if you read, so I read blogs by lawyers, right? And criminal prosecutors and stuff like that. And lawyers generally agree that, if you have a situation where it's like, let's say you don't have any video, something happened and you have the police as witnesses and you have the accused as witnesses. And it's word against word. The judges will generally believe the police in this case. Often, of course, because, they're professionals, they're involved with this kind of thing. And you kind of have to assume a certain level of them being there to help the public, right? And being interested. And that's, of course, not true with every police person. And you said policeman, policewoman, police furry, whatever. But I mean, there are biases, but I don't think it's a rubber stamp process. In any case, there will be cases where judge just goes, yeah, of course. I don't really think it's so much of a case that it happens that often that they are denied, but it's like the police is aware, right? It's a very high level of they only go for this kind of thing when they're very sure that they have enough evidence generally. Because also, you run into, I mean, it's not that a big a country. Like if let's say you're in Düsseldorf, right? You're the local police in Düsseldorf, and you are requesting a wiretap. There are like several judges at the court that look at these, right? You will, if you keep just spamming those, the judges will realize that, and I think it will come to a level where they don't take you seriously anymore. And I think the police doesn't want that to happen either. There are probably stats on that, right? For example, the FISA secret courts in the US tracked how many requests were approved, and it was almost all of them. Yes, there probably are. I probably should do some research on that. Let me write that down. That's actually a good point. Stats on wiretap approvals in Germany. I mean, you can't really compare this to FISA courts, right? The very existence of a FISA court is basically, I mean, I'm German, right? I'm from Germany. We're not perfect, as we will see later. Our court system is not perfect. But like, to me, the very existence of a FISA court just pretty much invalidates democracy, right? You're not a free country under the rule of your law if you have secret courts. To me, that just like the very idea of a secret court is something I would place like with the Soviets, right? With Stalin. That's what comes to mind when you hear secret court. You don't think like democracy. At least, that's my personal opinion. Anyway, I'm gonna have a look. This is good feedback. See, this is why I like doing these live. It's really good feedback. I'm gonna have a look, and then there must be. I mean, it's like an open system, right? There must be. I think they obviously don't publicize this when they're asking for the wiretap, but there must be stats like at the end of the year. The German justice system has stats about everything. Like Hamburg had a very good portal. When I was living in Hamburg, I was like just looking at crime statistics a lot. Just extremely interesting, like what part of the city has what crime rates, and what people actually think where the crime is and where the crime actually is, or what the crime is. Like the area where I lived had like a really high crime rate, but it was like a very like white collar area, And I was always digging into this, and I think it was mostly because like it was all these kind of, I mean, if you have like complaints, right? Like if somebody goes, oh, there's people having a loud party, then that goes into the crime statistics. And I basically in the end I figured out like the crime rate in that neighborhood I was in was so high because people always like, what did somebody tell me they call this in the UK? Curtain twitches? Like, they were just like, just complaining about anything to the police. But there were like there were a lot of break-ins and car theft because it was a high income area, but like not really like violent crime. And like the local like yellow press was always like, it's so crime ridden. It's as if like people were getting gunned down in the streets. Actually, where I lived, there was one serious, well, if you don't consider car thefts or something, there was like a pizza delivery guy who was robbed at gunpoint by a guy. That was the most exciting thing. Well, and then once they found a dead guy floating in the river, which was a drug-related thing, I think. So this is interesting. I know from your mail host that 43 out of 80 requests were ultimately found unlawful. This is the mailbox.org transparency report, right? I use mailbox.org. That's true. And this is a different thing. This is not. I'll have to look into this, but I don't think this is not wiretaps, right? This is a request for user data. I'm not even sure if these are court approved, and they lump everything together. So it's also like basically the intelligence services doing these kind of things. So that's not the same thing. I'm not sure, but I don't think I'll have to look that up. Anyway, I'm gonna look into this. It sounds like we have another show lined up. See, that's what I mean. I just have the to-do list just keeps getting longer and longer. I need more people need to subscribe to this podcast. I'm going to tell you the details later on how you can support this show, or subscribe on Twitch or whatever, because then I can allocate more time and we can have more episodes. Because God knows we have the topics. Anyway, so let me read you. So I was talking on episode 70. I was talking about this law, about the lawful interception, and it was just about to be passed. Now this has now happened, and this is a very good report from Matthias Monroy on his blog. I cut out some interesting things that I want to read out because he puts it very well. Why rehash it if he does it well? On the 10th of June, the Bundestag, which is the German parliament, massively expanded the use of state Trojan horse programs. According to the bill, the domestic intelligence service, the Verfassungsschutz, will now also be allowed to penetrate foreign computer systems with the help of spy software. The bill to modernize the legal basis of the federal police, that's the name of the second bill, was also passed by the CDU, CSU, and SPD against the ruling coalition, against the votes of the opposition. This would have allowed the federal police to infiltrate computers and mobile phones, just like the Office for the Protection of the Constitution. This is Verfassungsschutz. Just like the Office for the Protection of the Constitution, without the persons concerned having to have committed a crime. So this is the thing, right? They can do this now. I think he words this a bit like it's not about the person having committed a crime. They don't have to prove reasonable. They don't have to bring reasonable evidence, right? They'll go to the judge and say, maybe they don't even have to get a warrant for this. No, I don't even know that. But they don't they would say this guy has committed a crime, right? But they don't have to prove it now. They don't have to have reasonable facts where they go, look, this guy did this and that, and he was obviously close in the area when this crime was committed, or something like that, Anyway, continuing here from Matthias's blog post. A week ago, the upper house, Bundesrat, overturned this new law for various reasons. So the next federal government will have to deal with it again. So we have an election in September, so it's obviously going to take longer than that. The renewed Constitutional Protection Act, on the other hand, remains valid. So the whole Staatstrojaner hacking thing remains valid. Now this second law, which I didn't even talk about in episode 70, which basically allows the federal police to do these kind of things as well, has been held up. But the other law and other laws already specify that the local police, well, that's like, the city, county, federal, state police, they can already do that. Plus all the intelligence service, so the Verfassungsschutz, the Interior Intelligence Service, the BND, the Exterior Intelligence Service, and the MAD, which is the Military Intelligence Service. And I've explained that in episode 70 as well. I go into all these intelligence services. They're technically more. So the Verfassungsschutz is like the federal office of the protection of the Constitution. There are also 16 different federal state offices. So there's the North Rhine-Westphalia office for the protection of the Constitution, and the Hamburg one, and all these. But, I usually just lump them under Verfassungsschutz, even though, they're technically not the federal. Like, if you're from the US, it'd be kind of like the FBI having local agencies in every state. So, like, there'll be the FBI, and then there'll be which just doesn't really work in this instance because the F in FBI stands for federal. But, you'd have so the Verfassungsschutz is the German FBI equivalent. So you'd have a federal FBI, and then you have a California FBI and a Texas FBI. But obviously they all work together anyway because, the federal state offices aren't that big. The Vorstamt Intelligence Office, super user is referring to we had this thing going with some people. We used to play games around people from a podcast I previously did, Geek News Radio. We used to game, and we made up this Vorstamt thing in Germany. It's like the forestry office, and I'd like to make up that they also have an intelligence service. They're the most dangerous one because you've never heard of them before. You'd think they don't exist. But the Vorstamt Intelligence Service is actually the most dangerous of all of them. But interestingly, so the second law, which stipulated that the federal, where they wanted to stipulate that the federal police can also do this, spy on you with state Trojans, that got held up in the Bundesrat. And for people who don't know how this works, so in Germany we have the No, I know I'm getting it wrong. We have the Bundestag, which is the parliament, which is the thing you know about. That's basically so we elect our representatives, right? You elect your local representatives. So I'm in Düsseldorf, and so I have the voting district of I think Düsseldorf Mitte. I elect a guy, and he goes to the Bundestag, and then they're all They propose laws, and then they vote on the laws, and they hand these off to the Bundesrat, which is basically in Germany we also elect governments for the federal states, right? So we not only do I elect a representative that goes for Düsseldorf to Berlin, to the Bundestag. I also the Bundesrat's also in Berlin, is it? I think. Shit. Why don't I know this? I studied politics. I forgot this. I think it's in Berlin. Where is it? Yeah, in the former Prussian House of Lords in Berlin. So these are just so we elect, I also elect representatives to the parliament of the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia, which is in Düsseldorf, as it were, because we're the capital city of the federal state. And those also then sent representatives to the Bundesrat. Sorry, I'm getting really confused here. Confusing myself. It's like the second chamber, right? It's like the House and the Senate. This is basically the Senate, or in the that's why they meet in the House of Lords, the Prussian House of Lords, because in the UK this would be the House of Lords. They're basically just the second check. They're just second level of people you elect that add a little bit of spice to the mix, because the Länder, it's kind of like in the US a little bit. where, like they have all the different traditions saying, California is different than Texas. Texas is different than New York. In Germany, it'd be like, Hamburg is different from North Rhine-Westphalia. North Rhine-Westphalia is different from Bavaria. So there's like these local things, and it's like a second check. And a law that is ratified by the Bundestag goes to the Bundesrat. Well, most of them do, not all of them. And then they need to get ratified there, and then they get handed over to the president. So the chancellor, Angela Merkel, is head of the government, right, of the leading coalition in the Bundestag. But there's also a president in Germany, kind of like our queen, who is largely representative. The only thing he or she does has been only men so far, is just sign these laws. And now, since what the Bundesrat has done here is turn the law back to the Bundestag. This happens sometimes where they go like, no, we don't want to ratify this. You need to rework this law. And that's what Matthias says in his blog post right there. So the new government after the election will have to change this. It's interesting that it changed this law. It's interesting that this was a big focus on the press. And like the Spiegel in Germany, for example, and Die Zeit, they went like, oh, no, law turned down. Federal police can't spy. And the thing is, and that's like kind of, it came across as good news. There's like, hey, they turned down the spying. But the actual fact is, now the federal police is the only agency in Germany that can't do this. The local police can do this. So if you're in the US, it'd be like, we'll allow our government agencies to infiltrate your phone with spyware, right? But we won't allow the FBI to do it. The CIA can do it. The NSA can do it. Border Patrol can do it. Actually, that's the German, the Zoll. The Zollamt, they can do this as well. Border Patrol can do it. Your local sheriff can do it. The state police can do it. The highway patrol can do it. Just the FBI can't. That's pretty much what it is, right? So they're gonna, this is gonna change this law anyway, and it's gonna pass because it makes no sense to allow everybody to do this, and it's all like for the protection of the Constitution, right? You allow everybody to do this, except the actual government office that is charged with the protection of. Oh no, actually they are allowed. Sorry, except the federal police for some reason. Like your local police can do it, but the federal, it's like, so in Germany we have basically. In a normal federal state, it's very complicated, I realize. I hadn't planned to explain all this, but I think I need to, because if you're not in Germany, you probably don't understand this. So in Germany, we have 3 levels of police. We have local police, which is, I'm in Düsseldorf, which is a big city. So it's has Düsseldorf police, right? If I was like in a county, that would be like the county. Like if I was in a small village, right? The village wouldn't have their police. It would be like the county police, right? That's the local police. And then you have the Landespolizei. So you have the federal state has their own police. They're usually known as the LKA, they're most famous, the Landeskriminalamt, so the criminal police. They have their own criminal police, right? So not North Rhine-Westphalia, for example. So let's say, I don't know, if there's like, somebody attacks somebody with a knife, that would be like the local criminal police would investigate that, right? If there's murder, it'll probably go to the LKA, like, or if several people get murdered, like, if it gets escalated up to the federal state level. In Hamburg, because it's such a small federal state, I found it very interesting. The police headquarters was right next to where I lived, and I actually had a tour there once, and they explained, or I knew this before, but they explained how this all works. And in Hamburg, the LKA, the local police, the federal state police, is in the same building as the local police. And there it is like they don't have the local city police for Hamburg doesn't have a murder, like a homicide desk. If it's homicide, it immediately goes to the federal state police, which, the federal state and the city of Hamburg are essentially the same thing. Hamburg is like a city federal state. But it's like really, really interesting. So you have these levels. And then also you have the federal police. That's like the Bundeskriminalamt, the BKA. And they are so in Germany, the Verfassungsschutz, so that intelligence agency that defends the Constitution is kind of like, we have that, and then we have the BKA, which is like the criminal office for the federal police. They're like different. In the US, they're the same thing, right? In the US, it's the FBI. The FBI is both an intelligence service as well as like a federal level, like crime fighting unit, right? If you have like serial murders, they call in the FBI, right? In Germany, that would be the BKA. If there's like somebody holding up a bank or something, and they go to they flee through the country, whatever. If it's like country level, you'd have the BKA. So you have these 3 levels, and all of these levels can now spy on you. They all can do that except the federal police, right? The BKA. So the actual, normally you'd think, if you think about this logically, you'd think, right, those guys were the ones you would allow this to do this. You wouldn't do the local police will not have like, generally, like you'd not expect them to even have cases that would be so serious that you'd go and like put a Trojan on somebody's phone, right? You'd think you'd do that when somebody's like, I don't know, smuggling weapons or planning like a terrorism related thing, or like, there's like a group of people going around murdering people, right? Then you'd expect maybe, okay, if we do allow lawful interception, if we do allow to put spyware on people's phones, this would be like the situations where you do that. And they're all in the purview of the federal police, right? You don't have like the local Düsseldorf police investigating this, right? For example, good example, I come from Duisburg. It's a city just north of here. It's about as big as Düsseldorf, but it's like considered a bit smaller. It's a tiny bit smaller, and it's not the federal, it's not the capital. I don't know what it is with words. I don't have a grasp of language today, which is not good if you do a podcast. I apologize for that. Maybe this gin and tonic will help. Anyway, so there was a case there where several gunmen a few years ago entered an Italian restaurant and killed like several people in there. Right, they came in, shot around, killed people. Right, this was pretty immediately deemed a organized crime related thing, and they figured out that I think it was actually the was it a Sicilian mafia? I think it was the Sicilian mafia. And when something like this happens, it's like immediately like the federal police comes in, right? You got like, you don't let the local Duisburg police investigate shit, right? You get like your top whatever, like, organized crime fighting unit from the federal police in. And this is what makes this whole situation so weird, that they allow everybody to do this except the federal police. Anyway, quoting further from Matthias Monroy's blog, until now, only the police authorities and the Customs Investigation Service were allowed to use Trojan horse programs for criminal prosecution. The Code of Criminal Procedure, the StPO, Strafprozessordnung, allows their use in Article 100b as a so-called online search, the prerequisite being a prior court order. The authorities can then access the entire computer of the target person, search the file system, and copy documents, photos, or videos. In the case of state police forces, this intervention must be permitted in the respective state police laws. So those are different in separate federal states. Bavaria famously has a very draconian one. In some Länder, so that's a German term for federal state, this is already the case. Others are currently renewing their police laws accordingly. The Federal Crime Police Office, the BKA, also conducts online searches. According to the BKA law, this may also be done in cases of terrorism for so-called danger prevention. And to understand this, you need to it's helpful to understand that like all of these laws, I don't know how it is in the countries where you are, but it's probably similar. I think it's similar in the US. All of these laws where and I haven't explained this previously, so this is probably a good thing to do this. I should have done this like in episode 70 or whatever, maybe even in the EncroChat episode. But like all of this like online searches and wiretapping is based on laws from the 60s, right? So the wiretapping laws are about telephones, and they just interpreted these to mean, yes, if you use IP, right? If you use VoIP or something, if you use a messenger and you use WhatsApp and you use the phone call function, then intercepting that is also a wiretap, even though there's no wire and you're not tapping anything, right? And the same thing with when they started putting Trojans on people's computers, this is based on the search warrant laws, right? Where they basically, the German law protects your place of where you live, right? Your home. It protects your, if you rent or if you own, it doesn't matter. You're legally, this is my flat, right? The police can't come in there if I don't allow them unless they have a warrant. And they just interpreted your phone and your computer as being part of your living room, basically. So that's how the law treats it, right? See, that's why you need a warrant, because if I need a warrant to come in here, it's like the police needs a warrant to come in here, search my office or my room, then to search my computer, it doesn't really matter if the computer is in my room or in my car, wherever. The car basically your car gets treated as part of your house, basically, in German law, pretty much, as far as I understand it, and I'm not a lawyer, of course. But so that's where all of this comes from. And now this this creates a very interesting situation, a very interesting conflict between what is a search and what is a wiretap, which is what which is actually what Matthias goes on to talk about here. Superuser says, do they actually state what the law is limited to? What is the degree of crime? For example, is someone who watches child pornography going to be targeted, or does it have to escalate to murder, terrorism? You mean with the online searches and the wiretap? I mean, this is major crimes, yes, but child and youth pornography is included. Murder is, I think, attempted. Of course, anything related to undermining the Constitution. So that would be neo-Nazi-related hate speech, terrorism, these kind of things. But they have to be. They don't state that in these laws, but it's all based on. They didn't actually change that in these laws. I think it's pretty much based on the existing SDPO articles on what you need a warrant for, or what you can even apply. What if I want to search somebody's flat, what I even can and try to get that warrant for, what kind of crime that has to be, right? So, for example, it can't be if we're talking drugs, right? I think, as far as I'm aware, under German law, it can't really be if let's say I'm growing marijuana for my own consumption. I don't think they can get a warrant to search my flat. What they need to prove is that I'm distributing it, or that I'm selling it to somebody, basically, because that makes it a higher level of crime. Whereas, if I'm just growing marijuana for my own consumption, it's not legal, but it's not right. I don't even know if it's a crime or if it's just, in German we have this word Ordnungswidrigkeit, which is, I think, is that oh God, what's that in American law? There's a term for it. Is it a misdemeanor? I think it's a misdemeanor. So it's not, it's not. It usually doesn't involve jail time. It involves rather fines or whatever. So it has to have been serious crimes, and because crimes, and because because this is based on putting a Trojan on your computer, is based on getting a search. It's kind of for the same kind of crimes. Anyway, Matthias goes on. Allegedly, online searches are only actually carried out in very few cases. More common, however, is the use of so-called source telecommunication surveillance, Quellen-TKÜ. This is what we talked about in that episode about the law previously, about these law changes, which is regulated in criminal law in Article 100A StPO. It is only intended to monitor ongoing communication on the user's device. That is to take screenshots of chat histories or to enable the interception of audio and video telephony. So what we're talking here is what we're talking about in the war on crypto, right? The crypto wars, where basically, because they can't outlaw encryption, they want a way to read, chat histories or listen to phone calls, basically encrypted internet phone calls. With the source tapping, in principle, the same Trojan programs are used, and this is the interesting part, as I used for online searches. Therefore, the permission according to Article 100A, and this is Matthias's personal opinion, I think, Article 100A SDPO is misleading because it otherwise regulates the well-known interception of communication on the wire. The use of a state Trojan, on the other hand, is a, quote, clandestine digital burglary of an IT system, as the Chaos Computer Club described it 5 years ago in a statement on the BKA law. So basically what we're getting into here is a traditional wiretap is you listening into somebody's communication. Now you could say, okay, if it's text communication, you're basically reading chat messages or you're reading email. And the way they did this usually previously was to go to the internet service provider with a warrant and go, okay, we need this guy's internet traffic, right? Now, as nerds, as internet people, everybody listened to the show. We know we got smart, we encrypted this. Now, the service provider you can't get it off the wire and you can't get it off the service, so you can't really do a wiretap. So what they want to do is this legal interception where you're like Trojaning the end user's device and you're taking the source, like the chat before it gets encrypted and sent. Now what they're doing, the goal of this is just to get the chats, but the messages, whatever. But what Matthias and the Chaos Computer Club are basically saying is what you're actually doing is you're Trojaning the device, right? To get so deep into the system that you can have access to the unencrypted data, you basically own the system, which means the problem here is that they could do a lot more. And that is a serious problem. Because if you are concerned with, let's say, I don't think that's a huge problem in Germany, but it could be. If you have like corrupt police, if they have access to your phone to let's say your computer, right, to spy on your emails or whatever, your encrypted emails, right, to not spy, but to wiretap those, right? They could just put child porn on your computer. They have that right? They have their access to the system, and then they bust you, and then you can't prove that you didn't put it on there. So that's a big problem. So the problem is a court might order a wiretap, but they actually with this law, they're giving the police not only the ability to wiretap, but to basically own the complete system. And I think the argument a little bit from the Chaos Computer Club, and I'm completely on board with this, is that a lot of the people making these laws, and presumably also some of the judges, don't understand this, right? They don't understand this, how this works, because it's technology, and technology is hard. So Superuser says Australia apparently has a law that mandates a backdoor. I mean, we talked about this. I talked about, crypto wars a lot. That was the original idea. That is what they wanted to do, the Clipper chip. And if you're interested in that, if you go to the show notes, privatecitizen.press, I'm just playing around with my recording software here. That's probably not a good idea. If you go to privatecitizen.press, there are tags at the top, right? And if you click on Crypto Wars, you'll get a list of episodes where I talked about this previously, and I kind of explain this whole situation. So basically, because they couldn't do that, there was too much resistance. In Germany, they went the same way they went. They're going in other countries, like in the US, basically, where there's also a lot of resistance against building backdoors into these systems because they have the EFF and stuff like that. Now they're just going to this kind of thing where they basically do source interception, right? They want to own your system, and for some reason this is more acceptable to people. I don't really know why, but I mean, they're essentially hacking your system. I think people don't understand how this works. Super user has another question. Sorry, when you say they can't track you through your ISP. No, basically, what they went to the service provider. I'm not specifically talking to the ISP, right? So if you were like a few years ago, organized crime people were using like a messenger, and were like planning their crimes with that, then that was just TLS encrypted, right, from their device to the server to another device. So you could go to the service provider, the guy who runs the messenger service could go to them and with a request or a warrant or whatever, and go like, give us that chat information. But now that we have end-to-end encryption, you can't do that anymore. So your only chances are build a backdoor into the encryption system, or do this on the end device, the end user's device, and get the content before or after it's decrypted by the device to show to the user. Matthias goes on. So he talks about the Chaos Computer Club, basically saying that this is clandestine digital burglary of an IT system. The Federal Supreme Court, highest court in the land, had already formulated it exactly the same way in 2006. First, the third Senate of that court ruled that the online search of an accused person without his or her knowledge, was considered to be covered by Section 102 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. The section regulates house and flat searches. The First Senate subsequently overturned the assessment, since an open search is carried out in the presence of the person concerned or witnesses, but an online search is carried out without their knowledge, which is a very important thing. You know, I'm a journalist. I think about these things. I work from home now, right? I don't have the protection of some editorial office where the police will think twice, right? They could think I'm doing something here, and I'll get a warrant and turn up at my door. This is why next to my door, I have the numbers of the Düsseldorf Chamber of Attorneys. Right? I have this little sticker written on my computer screen, and I have it next to my door, because what you do is when the police turns up and wants to search you know, with a warrant, and wants to search your premises, you go, okay, warrant seems to be in order. I will now call my lawyer, or I will call a lawyer and get a lawyer, and then the lawyer supervises their search, right? Which means they need to hold the search. I think in some cases when they think periculum in mora, there's danger in delay, then they actually can do it. But generally, they'll have to wait till your lawyer turns up. I mean, you won't be able to go back into your room or wherever, into your flat, because obviously you're not allowed to mess with anything. But you'll stay with the police, and they'll stay. Everybody stays outside the flat basically until the lawyer turns up, and then you just have the lawyer accompany the police. Just to make sure that they don't plan anything or something like this, which is very important. So this is basically why the court said, hey, you can't do this. And I took this sticker off my screen, and now it's crooked. I have to put it on straight again, otherwise it'll drive me insane. Anyway, so that's very interesting. But it seems like this ruling, the government once again disregarded what the Supreme Court said in a previous ruling, and it's just going, no, we are passing laws and we're doing this anyway. Now we get into the speculation phase where I go like, this is what I think about this, right? This kind of makes me think. It looks awfully, I'm not saying this is premeditated, but it looks awfully like the state is currently trying to incentivize its citizens to put everything on their mobile phone, right? We're talking medical data, immunity passports, all the communications, location data, financial data, taxes, right? They try to get you to do your taxes with the computer, with the phone, your insurance, your IT documents. Everybody wants you to put everything on your phone, right? And they're trying to like incentivize in air quotes, like basically force you. I mean, we talked about this on the show often, mostly concerning with, COVID related stuff recently, but the war on cash, the same thing, right? Everybody tries to force you to do everything over your phone. And then they go and like basically nullify or like really reduce your protections of those devices, where they go, hey, we don't even need like suspicion that somebody's involved in a crime. We can just go and like put a Trojan on your phone. And this, I don't know about you, but maybe I'm paranoid, but this looks to me like they're basically setting up phishing expeditions. And I'm not the only one, right? You can talk to people from the Chaos Computer Club. I mean, there's stuff like this happening in the US that is it's not like it's only Germany. That's another thing, right? I live in Germany, so I report on this because I'm close to this. But this happens all over the world. I guarantee you, I don't know where you live, but it's probably moves afoot to move in this direction if it hasn't already. I mean, if you're listening from China, all bets are off, and you're like, look at those guys in Germany. Why isn't he happy? He's got all these freedoms. That they're trying. It just looks like it. It's I don't know. To me, it looks like that, and it's all conveniently all located in one area in one space where then the state can hack. And then they're making laws that makes it easier for them. And remember, we had a show. This was, what was this, episode 41, The Great Privacy Reset, where I basically said, this is happening. This is what people are doing. And then at that point, that it was like the World Economic Forum talking very openly about these plans. Now, I don't think they're the only ones. I think everybody is pushing us, as in the private citizens, in this direction, right? There are now stores in Germany where you can't pay with cash anymore. I used to think that wasn't legal. Apparently it is legal. It's completely legal. Because it's a contract. They can do whatever you want. I mean, you don't have to frequent that store, right? And that's how they justify these things. They're like, hey, it's an option. You don't have to drink your coffee at that store, right? And it was the same thing with the COVID, with the vaccines. Yeah, that store they can say you can only go in there if you're vaccinated, but that's okay. It's a choice. You don't have to go in there. But the thing is, yeah, it's a choice right now, but at some point it's not a choice anymore. If everybody does it, it's not a choice anymore. And I'm just one of the guys who sees the writing on the wall. I see the problem now. Nobody else does, right? I talk about this routinely with my wife, where we're, she's a lot more normal person than me, I would say. She's relatively nerdy in some respects, but with something like this, she's like, yeah, I just use, I just use my credit card. Who cares? And I'm like, no, look, this is going to lead to this down the road. We won't have cash anymore, and then they can track everything. And to her credit, like, that's why she's still married to me, I think. She goes like, yeah, actually, I don't think you're paranoid. I think sometimes she is a bit paranoid probably, but like, you have a point. She thinks about these things. And most people, when I tell them this kind of thing, like friends or just acquaintances, they'll just go, yeah, they'll probably go, he's a conspiracy theorist. He's like nuts. But, I think if you're listening to the show, you're probably more on my side of the argument. I mean, I think we're the guys, we talk about this last episode. We're the guys who are seeing the writing on the wall. We need to do something about this. Just to give you an example, right? People are saying this is kind of a conspiracy theory that this is happening. Speaking of conspiracy theories, you might remember about a year ago, started talking about the SARS-CoV-2 outbreak epidemic on the show, and I didn't really want to speculate much back then, so I don't think I discussed this a lot, but I think I at least mentioned it, that I thought it was a somewhat plausible theory that this virus originated in Wuhan, right, in their level 4, BSL-4 lab there. And everybody was like, "Oh, this is crazy. It's a conspiracy theory. It's like Trump supporters. This is crazy, right?" A little bit of a year later, it's now on the BBC. Biden has like a commission where they're researching this stuff. They have intelligence reports. It's seriously discussed in a Nature article. Links are in the show notes. I'm just saying, right? Just because something is a conspiracy theory doesn't mean it's not true. There are conspiracies. You might want to look up the Glomar Explorer. You might want to look up what the Soviets did when Chernobyl exploded. Right? You might want to look up Nixon. There are conspiracies sometimes, and sometimes maybe it's not even a conspiracy. So I don't think this privacy reset is a conspiracy. I don't think there's like a shadowy cabal orchestrating this. Right? I think it's a move in society. It benefits certain people. And I think a lot of these people have a lot of power to steer our lives, and so they steer it in that direction. And there's just not enough people seeing the dangers. So I don't think there's a conspiracy. I mean, a little bit of it might be a conspiracy. Like if you're seeing something like this, maybe the conspiracy in this case is that like the state and the intelligence services and the security apparatus goes, okay, everybody's putting their stuff on their phones. That's just the thing that happens. They put all their stuff on their phones. That just happens in society right now. We can see this. How can we take advantage of this? We need laws to get into these phones. Right? And I don't know if that's a conspiracy or if that's just common sense. Another huge conspiracy theory where pretty much everybody listening to this podcast, I guess, knew it was happening. Everybody else was like, that's a conspiracy theory. Was like the U.S. intelligence services basically spying on everything that happens on the internet. And suddenly a guy called Edward Snowden comes along, and it's not a conspiracy theory anymore. Isn't it funny how that goes? Super says, I don't see this as a conspiracy because they're very open about it. Yeah, that's the thing about the great privacy reset, or the great reset, as they call it. So they're just out there. They think it's more efficient. They can limit tax avoidance and it's private in air quotes because only the card company and your bank can see it. Of course, we know it's not true, and MasterCard or some crypto miner rakes in the fees. Yeah, also it's like that's always the argument, right? It's like only that company can see it. Yeah, but they sell it to other companies, and then the company gets bought, right? Or I mean, I did a very early episode. Let me look this up. Which episode was this? It's one of my actually most listened to episodes. I think was the episode on this credit card analysis, like this middleware company called Plaid. The episode is called The Happy Plumbers Who Know Everything About You. Episode 20. This is great. I hadn't noticed this. Episode 20 from the 20th of May 2020. A lot of 20s. This is just like some random fintech company, and they like just by virtue of doing something nobody else was doing, they got like in the middle, and now they see everything, and they know everything about you. Like if you're in the US, and then they got bought by. Well, they didn't get bought by Visa. That got canceled because suddenly people were getting, the antitrust people always were getting involved as well. It was like then they get bought by Visa, and suddenly you can tie all of this together. And I mean, I'm going to do an episode about this. I think I mentioned this before. We'll have to do an episode on the social scoring system in China, which is relatively hard to research. There's not that much good information on it. But that's where it's going, right? We're going to a point where, here it wouldn't be the government directly. I mean, in China, I think some of it is the same way right now. It's like you have private companies, but there's a database somewhere, and they're just pooling it. And suddenly it's like, yeah, we know everything about you. We know about your taxes, about your insurance. We know everything. You're not getting a credit because of this. Because, you got caught smoking weed and that's illegal. Or like you crashed your car. So now you can't leave the country. You're not getting the COVID vaccination because like your social score is not high enough. But that's a conspiracy theory again. So let's move on. let's move on from this to another story, which is positive actually, a little bit. Well, at least initially, and but will shine more light on how this how this lawful interception works, and why there are restrictions about this in laws. And it's not only in German laws. We'll get to know that it's pretty much similar in the UK. But so anyway, let's get to this second story. So back in episode 32, I talked about the EncroChat hack, which was basically just an explanation, a good example of how you do this kind of thing, right? We have end-to-end encryption, now we have end-to-end encrypted messages. So what do you do? If you're like the state, if you're the police, you want to get in there, what do? You do what is proposed here, what we've been talking about. You put Trojans on people's phones, or you even go one step further, you own the service provider infrastructure, which, also involves kind of like hacking people's phones. But like if this was kind of like a supply chain attack, right? They attacked the servers that control everything. So then you can push like malicious updates to the phones and everything. So basically this was like a coordinated European police organization, lots of European police offices coordinating this. And basically they figured out there was this company called EncroChat that sold like these crypto phones, right? Encrypted messages on phones, prepared like special hardware. And they basically figured out that these were only used by organized crime, which is legit. I mean, in this case, I think they're pretty clear about that. It was like organized crime people selling it. It was relatively expensive. They targeted, their friends in crime. So I think they're relatively they're right about that. But that's really not an argument, because I mean, a journalist could have gotten hold of one of these phones and you're intercepting their communications. But it's kind of like the Cyberbunker story that I also talked about, where it's like they really seem to be only hosting like crime-related stuff. But it was a good example of how you own like such an operation. Now, interesting. They are now, they collected a lot of information about organized crime. And they're now in the process of indicting people and searching premises and stuff like that. And so I have a story here. This is on Computer Weekly, where they talk about this, and I'm gonna read some of this story. Links, of course, always in the show notes. privatecitizen.press. Sorry, my nose is a little bit blocked. The allergies. Maybe gin tonic helps. It's also why my voice is getting rough. But you know about this already. I talk about this a lot when summer comes to the show. Anyway, Computer Weekly says, messages intercepted by French police during a sophisticated hacking operation into the encrypted phone network EncroChat cannot be used in evidence, a German court has found. The Berlin Regional Court ruled that data obtained in a joint operation by the French and the Dutch to harvest millions of text messages from EncroChat users was in breach of German law. The Berlin public prosecutor said in an announcement on Twitter that it would appeal against the decision. The prosecutor said the decision in Berlin was in contrast to all previous decisions by higher regional courts in Germany, which have accepted EncroChat evidence. Which doesn't mean anything, right? Maybe this was the first judge who knew what was going on. If the Berlin court's decision is upheld, which, they can appeal, obviously, the trials of hundreds of suspects in Germany accused of drug trafficking could be thrown into doubt. And I think this will get escalated. I don't think this is a case. I don't know if this is a case for the Supreme Court or there's like another court. So the Supreme Court is Bundesverfassungsgericht, the Constitutional Court. And there's also the Bundesgerichtshof, which kind of deals with like more of like organizational things. Like, I don't know if this is a case where it's like primarily about the civil rights of the people who were indicted, or if it's more about like, the police. Anyway, it'll probably get up to one of these courts, and then they'll have like, in the last instance, they'll have to decide. The decision on the 1st of July 2021 came as courts in the UK, France, and the Netherlands faced similar legal challenges over the admissibility of evidence from the EncroChat phone network, which UK police claim was almost entirely used by organized crime groups. Defense lawyer Oliver Wallasch told Computer Weekly that the case was, quote, of the utmost importance, end quote, in upholding the privacy rights of German citizens. He said the Berlin decision, quote, shows that substantial human rights and procedural safeguards are in place, even though police and prosecution would like to focus only on getting potential criminals behind bars, end quote. The court released a defendant accused of 16 counts of drug trafficking after finding that the only evidence against him consisted of messages intercepted by the French police from an EncroChat encrypted phone. Now, I personally think they should release that guy because, I mean, the police obviously didn't do their job, right? They knew this guy was smuggling. They had, like, his fucking phone messages. How hard is it to catch that guy? Like, seriously, I'm not a policeman, but how? Like, I watch a lot of Bosch, right? So how hard, and Columbo, how hard is it to fucking catch that guy in the act? You've got his fucking phone that he plans everything on. Like, how lazy were these guys? The court said the use of data from EncroChat users on German territory without any concrete grounds of suspicion against the individuals affected was in breach of German law. Well, this was, of course, before they changed all the laws regarding this. This could have changed now. I don't know. Continuing from the story. Even if the interception operation was legal under French law, the use of the data in German criminal proceedings was not justified, said Regional Court Judge Berend Reinhardt. Quote, the regional court considers that the surveillance of 30,000 EncroChat users to be incompatible with the principle of proportionality in the strict sense. This means that the measures were unlawful, Reinhardt wrote in a 22-page judgment. The court found that the French had not provided information on how they had intercepted data from the EncroChat handsets and that French authorities were unwilling to provide further information. No, we will not tell you. This is more Russian. Sound more Russian than French. So basically, that proportionality thing is big. You know, that's important thing in these kind of situations where, like, the courts always have to decide. You know, there might be reasons there are reasons for invasion of privacy. That's the same with, like, the warrant, right? That's what a warrant is. Basically, a court allows the police to invade your privacy for certain reasons, but it has to be proportional. That's the whole thing. Like, you know, you have to basically be selling marijuana for them to get into your flat, right? If you just have one plant and you're smoking a joint every month, that's like to infringe your basic rights to be left alone and to not be, like, hounded by the police because of that. It's just like that's considered not proportional. And they're basically saying here it's the same thing. Just spying, like, even if you say they're all criminals, you don't know that, you can't prove that, otherwise they'll all be in jail. So you're just saying they're all criminals, and, like, to spy on 30,000 people because you're saying they're all criminals, it's just, you know, it's just not proportional. Some of them might be, but it's just not proportional. Anyway, the story continues. Grounds for suspicion did not exist when the EIO was ordered and implemented. I don't even... What's EIO? I actually didn't look that up. European Investigation Order. Okay, that was like the, you know, EU level police thing. When the EIO was ordered and implemented according to the judgment. Under EU law, member states are required to notify the German authorities before intercepting telecommunications of people on German territory. This includes providing all the necessary information, including a description of the interception operation, to assess whether the interception would be authorized under German law and whether the material can be used in legal proceedings. Judge Reinhardt said, quote, according to the information that has become known so far, it is to be assumed that there was no such request by the French state and no review by the competent German authority in this case. There was no concrete suspicion that criminal offenses had been carried out by the users of EncroChat phones targeted, the court found, end quote. So so what he's saying is basically, in Germany, if you want to spy on these people, you need to, have a suspicion at least that they're doing something illegal. You can't just go, hey, they're all criminals, they're using this network that some criminal invented. You have to go, no. The guy we're spying on, we suspect him or her of doing this, probably him, or having done that. And then you can't just spy on 30,000 people because you need a reason for all of it, for everyone, basically. Now, that's good news. What I don't know is what this means because, these other laws we just talked about seem to think seem to tell us that you can now actually do this without suspicion. Although I think the proportionality rule would still come into effect, right? This like putting a Trojan on your phone is like based on, they don't really need suspicion, but that's like for single people. I don't think even then they can just do it to 30,000 people. Or I would think. Now, interestingly, the police obviously doesn't care about the Berlin Regional Court because we have a Reuters story that says German police have arrested, this is from, wait, let me look this up. When's the story from? From 6th of July, so that was today. The story is from today, from this morning actually. German police have arrested more than 750 people and seized a large haul of weapons and drugs after infiltrating a communications service used by the criminals, authorities say on Tuesday. So this is EncroChat, man. The Federal Criminal Office, BKA, said the arrests were made possible by police cracking the encryption used by the EncroChat service, which offered a secure mobile phone instant messaging service that was used by criminals. Now, you know me, I'm critical of journalists, right? Interestingly, this Reuters story neglects to mention this Berlin court decision, which was on the 1st of July, which was, today's Tuesday, it was on Thursday. That was last week, so somebody didn't do their research. I mean, I would have put that in the story, because, I mean, if this is upheld, and, I mean, you have to think, I mean, this will take years, right? It'll escalate it to the next court. But, like, this could potentially, as far as I understand, be escalated to a federal level court. And then if they side with the Berlin court, then all of the state is inadmissible. Then all of these 750 people, they just arrested, they'll have to let them go. And probably even be open to counter suits or whatever, because presumably, I mean, I don't know how this works, but I would be making the case that they arrested me after a court had said that this is not admissible. Like, and even if they then found drugs and weapons or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's like fruit from a tainted tree, right? You can't bring that. You can't bring that case because the original tip came from inadmissible evidence. Anyway, this is very interesting, I think. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. As always, lots to follow up here at a later date. This will probably stick with us for years here in Germany and possibly on this show. While this goes back and forth. We'll have to see what happens if there's an election later in the year. Many elections actually this year in Germany. What will happen? There might be a change in government. The Greens could come into government, which would be interesting because I have no idea what they're going to do. If they're actually more pro-civil rights. Some of their members of parliament are. I don't think the party in itself is. But maybe the FDP, the libertarian or liberal party basically is going to become stronger again. Maybe that will have an impact. They seem to be concerned with civil rights. At least they're talking about it. They were basically the only party talking about this kind of thing when they changed the Infektionsschutzgesetz and did all like the COVID restrictions. So I think it'll stay interesting. I'll stay on this topic. Anyway, let's start wrapping up this show. But before we go, let's talk about some feedback I've got from fellow listeners of the show and the producers, because they're sending in feedback, so they're producers. So first, we had an email where I didn't really understand where I got this from, who this was, but helpfully they provided a link. So this is in reference to episode 76, the previous episode, where we talked a lot about porn. And if you're wondering, I'm just applying some eye drops while I continue waffling here live on the show, because my allergies are killing me. So hopefully I'll have to move my microphone here a little bit. Hopefully it'll help. Anyway, so I got this email from, I think this is Sean and Sile Citizen. And I was like, what the fuck? But they provided a link to a Wikipedia entry, which is called John Q. Public. And this is basically the Joe Schmo, Joe Blogs thing, right? The international thing where you go like random citizen. In Germany, that would be Max Mustermann. Or is it Maria Musterfrau? I don't know. But, so apparently that is the Irish version. It actually mentions, United Kingdom is Joe or Jane Public. In Australia, New Zealand, Joe or Jane Citizen. And then it's in Ireland, Joe Soap is used as a generic reference to a male. Also Sean and Sile Citizen. So I guess we have a anonymous citizen from Ireland. Anyway, they say Pornhub isn't just for pornography. We'll link that's in the show notes. Beware, this link goes to Pornhub. If you don't want to click on it, it goes to a video called Linux Time Saving Tip. Use bash aliases for commands. And no, it's no scantily clad ladies. Well, I can't on Twitch go to this video because there'll be ads with ladies around that, and then there'll be it'll be a TOS violation. But the video itself's completely clean. It's just the Linux tech tip. Apparently those are on Pornhub as well. Haven't come across those yet. But I think that's pretty cool. That's kind of it's a good combination, right? You got your Linux command line tips, you got your porn right next to each other. You do some server admin, do some wanking. I think it's cool. Why not? And who knew that was on Pornhub? So thanks for that tip, Sean and Sile Citizen. Speaking of porn, producer Yevgeny Kuznetsov also wrote in from Russia with reference to the previous episode. And he says, reprotecting children from, quote, harmful information, be it porn or anything else. Having become a father recently, I've been giving this topic a lot of thought and came to a conclusion that it's all a bad idea to start with. We can't shield a child from all the hurtful, false, and bogus information for 18 years and then suddenly expect them to be able to tell good information from bad and make their own choices when they become an adult, can we? We, and I mean parents first and foremost, have to show our children all kinds of things and teach them to make their own choices so that they can be adults when they grow up. If, on the other hand, we don't want adults but instead want obedient servants that follow orders and let authorities decide everything for them, then yes, we need to be only showing children what we think is suitable for them and let the idea of, quote, there are people that decide what's good for me and these people are always right, end quote, sink in properly while they're kids. That was obviously a bit of sarcasm there, I think. But yeah, I think, Yevgeny, that is an awesome attitude. I wish more parents were like you. Somebody who doesn't have kids and who only watches parents from the outside, so to speak, I'd almost given up that there actually are parents that are that sensible. And I think it's great. I think we need more parents like Evgeny. And they're probably out there. You just don't hear from too much. You just only hear from the helicopter parents and the crazies. Like always. You always hear from the crazies. I think that's a great attitude. It's pretty cool. Yevgeny also gave us an update. He's been updating us recently about the vaccine situation there in Russia. And Yevgeny says, about the AstraZeneca vaccine not being recognized. I already told you how you need a QR code that links, so this in Russia, that links to a record of your vaccination to go to a restaurant. Of course, those records can only be of vaccinations of vaccination with vaccines approved for use in Russia. The 3.5 Russian vaccines we have. Pfizer is not recognized. AZ is not recognized. Neither are Johnson & Johnson's and Chinese ones. For all intents and purposes, you are either vaccinated with the Russian vaccine or not vaccinated at all. Let's just think that like vaccination all of a sudden is like a national. It's like there's like vaccination nationalism now. It's so weird. Yevgeny says this has a funny consequence. There's more and more talk among the general public that the whole deal with COVID-19 and the vaccination is a hoax, because the actions of the authorities are obviously not about protecting the population with vaccinations as soon as possible, but that they likely have other motivations. Yeah, I mean, how can you like object to that? I mean, it's this whole thing. I mean, I've been saying this from the beginning. Obviously, doesn't. Like lots of these measures and lots of it hasn't made sense from the very beginning, but it's just getting worse. This is just ridiculous. I mean, this is the peak ridiculousness for me right now, right? You have people that you've like, for whatever reason, like you've scared them into getting vaccinated. They just got vaccinated because they felt it was sensible, or whatever, right? You have people that are now vaccinated. You have what you wanted, and now you're going like, no. They have the wrong vaccine, right? In the US, it's like AstraZeneca because it's not FDA approved. It's not FDA approved because of side effects. It works. Like even the FDA doesn't, like nobody in the FDA, the WHO, Lord Fauci, nobody doubts that the vaccine works. Right, it was not approved because the side effects were deemed too dangerous. But if you're already vaccinated, who cares? Why are you now not officially protected? Like, why can't you go to the Springsteen concert? What the fuck? Actually, the Springsteen concert's been bugging me because I like Springsteen so much, right? And it's just like it's such irony that Bruce Springsteen, who stood for rock and roll, right? Rock and roll once stood for like being a rebel, being an outsider in society, not doing what they tell you, fighting the man. That was what rock and roll was about. Now rock and roll is about enforcing that people are do what the man tells them, are reasonable, get their vaccination, right? That's what Springsteen is doing indirectly when you have to be vaccinated to come to his concert. I mean, there are reasons for this. I mean, there are reasons you can say that. I mean, there are laws, there are regulations, whatever. But I don't care. With the end result is that. The end result is that punk and rock and roll are now about like doing what they tell you. Fuck you, do what they tell you is the new Rage Against the Machine mantra. I just find that, I don't know. If it wasn't so sad, it would be hilarious. Now the only people who are rebelling against this are country singers and Van Morrison. Van Morrison's the only rebel left. A small, bold jazz singer. But having said that, I'm looking forward to concerts. I just got tickets for the Toten Hosen next year in Düsseldorf. I just got tickets for Sabaton in Hamburg. I'm finally going to go to Sabaton with my mom in Cologne. We've been wanting to go there for quite a while. My mom's over 70, and I recently got her into Sabaton. Well, recently, a few years ago. And we wanted to go to a concert. We had tickets, and then it was in the winter, and she got like really sick and couldn't go, and I had to go alone. And now we're doing this. We're doing this. At least Sabaton never had the the lofty goal of being rebels against society. They're just like singing about tanks, and that's it. I can respect that. Anyway, that's all the feedback we have for this show. I thought that was great. Thank you, Yevgeny, and thank you, was it Sean? Sean Citizen. And let's wrap this up. I want to tell you how you can make sure that this show stays on the air. Man, my allergies are hitting me hard today. So as I said earlier, I've got lots of topics. I would love to do more shows. I've committed to do one a week, even though I'll take a hiatus soon here. But, I'll be back, and I'll make it up to you. I'll get you extra shows. But if you want more shows, there's a way to do this. This show is produced under the value for value model, which means you get it for free. And then if you see value, you determine what that is, and you give it back. You can either become a patron on Patreon, link is in the show notes, privatecitizen.press. You can send one-off contributions via PayPal, producers@fab.industries. All the details are in the show notes. And, since I'm a freelancer and I kind of have to, I'm organizing my own workload, but I'm trying to like put food on the table as well. If enough people support the show, if more people support the show, I can do more for it, and of course I'll do more episodes, and we have lots of topics. As you've seen on this show, I like interacting with you, be it in Twitch chat or sending me feedback. Of course, there's a link in the show notes, privatecitizen.press, contact link up the top. There's all the details on it. Please get in contact. Let me know what you think. Let me know where I'm wrong. Give me other feedback. Give me ideas. As you can see, I like show ideas, so I've got one already. This show where I need to research these wiretap approvals and how many get approved and how many get turned down and all this kind of stuff. It's amazing. I love that. I love that if people give me input like that and ideas. So, please do that. And please help out. And I would like to thank those people who did, because, credit where credit's due. So for this episode, the people that made it possible are Georges, Steve Hose, Butterbeans, Jonathan M. Heavy, Michael Mullen Jensen, Dave, 1I11G, Jackie Plage, Michael Small, Vlad, Philipp Klostermann, Jaroslav Lichtblau, IKN, Kai Sears, Bennett Piata, Fadi Mansour, Joe Poser, Dirk Didi, Larry Glock, David Potter, Matt Jollyman, Mode 7, Mika, Martin, Sandman616. Wait, did I skip a line? Anyway, I'm gonna start at IKN again because I don't know if I skipped the line. Damn it, this never happened to me before. IKN, Kai Sears, Bennett Piata, Fadi Mansour, Joe Pozo, Dirk Didi, Larry Glock, David Potter, Matt Jollyman, Mode 7, Mika, Martin, Sandman616, Mist Ramish, Avis, Dave Amrish, Rodane the Insane, Rizal, Drive Zero, Ricky M, Barry Williams, Jonathan Edwards, Captain Eckhead, Cam, D, RJ Tracy, Ezekiel 017, Rick Bragg, Robert Forster, Super User, and No Reply. Thanks to all of you. The Super User was in Twitch chat today. Giving a lot of feedback, so that's pretty cool. And also, obviously, Twitch, just mentioned it, stream is live on Twitch. Everybody who subscribes to my Twitch channel, of course, supports the show as well. That's a good way to do it. You can use your Amazon Prime account to do it for free. So I'm on Twitch, of course, as Foxtrot Alpha Bravo. Link is all in the show notes. Private Citizen, not press. Anyway, my Twitch subscribers who also help make the show possible are Mike the Dane, Gal Terran, Sandman616, Redeemer F, Flash Gordo, Mode 7's Unavailable, Butterbeans, IndieGamiacs, Acherontas 7, Bacon the Pork, Centuria Purchase, and Ezekiel 017. And as you can see, lots of these people support me various ways. Lots of them have been on board for the better part of the year, longer than a year since the show started. I'm always amazed by the loyalty of you guys and gals, of everybody who helps out. I appreciate that a lot. I love doing these shows. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting the private citizen. I also have to thank Bytemark at bytemark.co.uk, the UK hosting provider. They provide me with the servers that provide you with the audio files. And that has been working very well, so thanks to Bytemark. And with that, I'm out of here before I die because of the pollination, the grass is killing me. Let's get out of here. The show's theme song is called Acoustic Roots by Raoul Kabazali. And then we have outro music from River Run Dry, and the song's called Long Road Trucking. So let's get out of here. If everything goes according to plan, I'll see you tomorrow for another Private Citizen. Until then, aim to misbehave. Nice little song, that, I think. Okay, let's get out of here. I need to finish this show. And I need to take care of some other stuff. And then I'll see you tomorrow for another recording of the Private Citizen. But until then, we're going to raid Khalifa. It's my favorite streamer on Twitch. He's playing, what's it called? Plague's Tale Innocence. Something, it's not the COVID. It's something with rats and the actual plague. So let's get over there. Khalifa is a great streamer. I like her very much. She's from Copenhagen. And if I'm really lucky, I'm going to meet her someday. Might even be at the Sabaton concert. Because they're playing Copenhagen next year. I'm trying to set that up. That would be amazing. Anyway, let's raid Khalifa. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it very much. See you soon.